This year it is my intention to ask Rotarians throughout the district to share their Rotary moments. In order to start this process, I'm going to share one of my Rotary moments, which goes back quite a long way. In 1954, some may remember that this was the time when the polio endemic was at its worst. And the story is about a little 4-year-old boy who was sick in bed with flu and had been so for about a week or so. And when his father came in one day, his father was a traffic cop, came off duty and suggested that the boy come with him down to the tea room just to buy a loaf of bread or milk. What happened, as the boy tried to get out of his bed, he fell in a heap to the floor, and obviously he had contracted the polio virus whilst he was ill. The little boy ended up being paralyzed from the waist downwards for 2 years. But just to backtrack slightly, the little boy's father, constable, a policeman on duty in the central areas of Durban, in the center city, used to patrol a specific block where Payne Brothers and OK Bazaars and Stutterfords and all the old stores used to be. And one Saturday morning he was on duty, and a motor vehicle was going round and round and round the block, and eventually a gentleman stopped and said to the policeman that he was desperately in need to find a parking, couldn't find a parking for a very important business meeting that he needed to attend. So the constable gave him an opportunity, parked him in a loading zone, and 2 hours later the gent came out of the meeting, thanked the constable, and off he went. To go back to the beginning of the story, it was common in that time that when the next polio victim was made public, there would be a photograph and a story of him or her on the front page of the local newspapers. So a photograph appeared of the constable holding his 4-year-old son, and a bit of a story related to it, and the child was then taken off to hospital. The child spent 2 years in and out of hospital at Wentworth Hospital, and most of the time he spent in the Addington Hospital in Durban, but in isolation. The only one allowed to visit him, in fact, was his mother, and she massaged his legs almost every day with olive oil. Whether that was a recipe and a cure, no one will ever know, but that did in fact take place. One of the conditions, well, a week or so later after the publishing, or a day or so later after the publishing of the photograph, the then Chief Traffic Officer of Durban received a phone call, and it was from a prominent businessman in the Durban area, asking if the traffic cop and the boy photo was in fact indeed the traffic cop that had let him park in a parking lot and a parking zone. And he relayed that story to the Chief Traffic Officer, and he said that he wanted to ensure that the boy had the best medical service that money could buy, but with only one condition, that he would remain anonymous. His name would never ever be made public. This in fact did happen, and after 2 years, the boy, after walking in calipers for a number of months, walked out of the hospital at Addington without any aids whatsoever. When he left the hospital that particular day, along the long corridor, at the end of the corridor sat his parents on a bench, and he was led along the corridor unaided to meet his parents. It was the first time that the parents had seen the little boy walk for 2 years. The boy was now 6. To the day that my father died, who was the traffic cop, he never ever mentioned, and he never ever divulged who that gentleman was who paid for my hospital fees all those years. It just makes one wonder how Good Samaritans and what a role that Good Samaritans do play. It also just makes me grateful that I belong to the organization that within a year or two is going to in fact have achieved the eradication of polio worldwide. And I wonder how many other souls could have been saved if there were other Good Samaritans. We as Rotarians are Good Samaritans. Why don't we then consider donating just a little bit to the Rotary Foundation's Polio Fund and just help somebody out there? Thank you.